watching News 24 Live. The Easter weekend has come and gone, and sadly there was carnage on our roads once again. I'm joined in studio by Sihle Dube, who's the spokesperson for the MSC for Transport in the Western Cape, to give us a bit more info on the stats from this weekend. Sihle, thanks very much for joining us.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Before you give us a sort of sad rundown on these stats and facts, why has the Easter weekend historically been such a dangerous weekend?
Yeah, well, it's one thing. It's why it's similar to Christmas also. It's the increased number of traffic volumes that come in and out of a province. As you know, the Western Cape is quite a big tourist destination, as is the case in December. So we have at various checkpoints recorded in excess of over 1,000 vehicles per hour passing through on our national roads, so that's the N1 and the N2, coming in and out of the province during this period. And it's also a very short period, so it's those increased volumes concentrated over a short period of time, which only but exacerbates the problem and makes it a little bit more dangerous than any other time of year.
Now, interestingly, we were talking off air. You said that the majority of the deaths this weekend were pedestrians and in and around the metro, so not necessarily on the N2, the N3.
Yeah, there are various places. Pedestrian deaths recorded in Kales River. Just isolated incidences. It's all just individual numbers at various places, mostly in the metro, but also at, out in Oudtshoorn, in various places across the province. But it's mostly pedestrians that are at risk during this time.
Okay. So, I mean, how many deaths were recorded this Easter weekend? How many injuries?
This Easter weekend we had 27 deaths recorded, and of those 27, 13 were pedestrians, which is a higher proportion of them. Various interventions have been focused on all classes of fatalities, including pedestrians, drivers, vehicle occupants, drivers and passengers, as well as motorcyclists and cyclists. But we do see that there's been a very serious scourge on pedestrian deaths over this time particularly.
I remember hearing a stat over the weekend on the radio, I think, that there were 700 arrests were made in the Western Cape. Is there any truth to that? And
no, there's about a few hundred people were stopped at various roadblocks and screened for various things, whether it be some people stopped for speeding and a lot of them for alcohol and alcohol consumption. Of those, I know about 53 were arrested at various operations across the province during this weekend. Okay.
So are the biggest offenders still drunk drivers?
Yeah, but drunk drivers and speedsters are quite notorious for causing some of the crashes. But we've also seen in the past, and we're still going to look very much deeper into the stats now, post this Easter period, but we've also seen in the past fatigue playing a very serious role in some of the crashes that we've seen on our roads. So we've seen found where alcohol wasn't present and drivers weren't speeding, that they've just simply fallen asleep behind the wheel and veered over into the opposite lane. And we see that by the number of head-on collisions that occur on the roads. It's usually an indicator that the driver's fallen asleep behind the wheel and veered over into the other lane, which results in the collision. But yeah, those are basically the main three killers on our roads: is speed, alcohol, excessive alcohol consumption, and fatigue.
Okay. Tell us a little bit more about Operation Zero.
Well, the emphasis of Operation Zero was to achieve zero fatalities and injuries at specific targeted hotspots across the province. So our crash data over the past few years has been able to tell us which are the areas that are most prone to crashes, and you'll see on some of the highways that there'll be notices that this is a high accident area. So we focused our interventions on those areas, and there's various areas across the province that look at vehicle volumes, traffic volumes in that area. We've dedicated resources and manpower, physical manpower to those areas. We've had ad campaigns focused at radio stations that are prominent in those areas, just to get the message across. But that has been the main focus of this particular operation. Operation Zero is to achieve a decreased number of fatalities at specific areas where we know that there are very high incidences that occur.
How do you, in a sort of hands-on sense, curb the fatalities? I mean, how do you prevent pedestrians from being hit? I mean, on national highways, does it mean putting more speed cameras, having more of a presence? How do you guys plan to curb the fatalities on our roads? Yeah, well,
the plan beforehand, just to put a bit of context, the ultimate aim of the plan was to reduce the number of serious crashes or major crashes that include fatalities of about 5 and above, and we've seen those in recent months where there have been incidences where there were a high number of people killed in one incident, and we haven't had that during this weekend, which we are very grateful for, but we know why. There's been the focus interventions targeting speed. We've expanded our average speed over distance camera system to cover 452 kilometers of the province's roads. We just recently extended onto the N2 on Solari's Pass, where we know we've seen some horrific incidences there. We haven't seen any over this past weekend since that expansion, so that's very, very important. That's one thing that we do to target specifically speed. Pedestrians are a different set of circumstances altogether, not like motorists who you can target directly with enforcement and various messages. But pedestrians, and we've found, our recent studies have found that a lot of the pedestrians that have been knocked over on our roads, a high proportion, over 50% of them, have been found to have alcohol in their bloodstream. So they probably had been drinking too much and found themselves in an area where they shouldn't have been, resulting in them being knocked over. So that's definitely going to take a different kind of thinking. It's not as simple, if I can put it that way, as interventions directed at motorists, because you know exactly how to get them. We've got legal frameworks to support interventions at targeting them and focusing on changing their behavior, which we've been able to see gradually over the past few years. But pedestrians, definitely a cause for concern and worth looking at a little bit differently.
Great. Thanks very much for your insight.
Sure.